Welcome. We are broadcasting live from the mothership. You are tuned in and listening to Starseed Energy Radio with your host Jonah Bolt. Starseed Energy Radio, where you can always tune in to hear the colors and see the music. Starseed Energy Radio goes live in 3, 2, 1.
All right, what's up, Spaceship Earth? Thanks for tuning in. You are now receiving a live transmission from Starseed Radio, where you can always tune in to hear the colors and see the music. I am your host, Jonah Bolt, the Octorian Starseed. We have lots of exciting news to share today about Net Zero, the new generator that we are pushing out to the world for clean, renewable energy. It's an amazing system, and we've had such an amazing response. I want to thank everybody out there. I've been contacted by over 100 people from all over the world, Bangladesh, India, Aruba, Madagascar, even the small island of Malta. Shout out to my girlfriend who just came from Malta. So it's been real exciting, and we have a great show lined up for you today. Today is September 2nd, 2015. We're going to be doing a very awesome 9/11 webinar, a musical webinar with meditation for the families of 9/11, a really, really cool show. So I hope everyone can tune in then, as well as we're going to be doing a very big webinar coming up on September 27th. I want people to write that date down. September 27th is the webinar. This webinar is going to feature 4 of the world's top leaders in the energy field. We have some amazing panelists. I'm going to be doing a 5-part series. It is called Synergy, Oneness of the Elements. Our first 4 guest panelists will be Dave Parker from the Free Energy Party. We have Dan Winter coming on, and we also have David Sarita, and we also have Sterling Allen from New Energy Systems. So 4 of the leading world top people in energy. Then we'll be doing water, air, ether, and the other elements. So all 5 elements, 20 panelists. It's a 5-part series. It's going to be innovation, education, and inspiration. So please write down September 27th. You can go to starseedradio.com. We're going to be posting more information up there as well. We'll also say check out Starseed Technologies, please, .com for the new shungite that we're still sending out. We got a new shipment in of elite shungite. And also for our free energy information, I want to get this free energy information out to you, or call us toll free at 888-400-2328 anytime, 24/7. If we don't pick up, leave us a message with your number and we will get right back to you. You can call us anytime. We want to send you these PDF files. I have about 15 to get this free energy information out, and also this elite shungite. We've been getting a few orders, so thank you for all the listeners out there ordering shungite. As you can hear right here, that is my shungite, my water bottle. I drink shungite water every day. We've heard amazing stories from people contacting us all over the world that are also using and having great benefits from shungite. We have lots of information and studies by Cornell University and other universities on starseedtechnologies.com. So check that out, and you can read more about that there. Or you can call toll free again, 888-400-2328. With that, we're going to start the show with our daily quote. And this quote goes a little something like this. None can destroy iron, but its own rust can. Likewise, none can destroy a person, but his own mindset can. That quote by Ratan Tata. Shout out to Ratan Tata for the quote of the day, and we're going to jump into our daily download with our very own Ryan Matthew Durnick from bellwetherpost.com. Always on top of the news 24/7. Check out his feed also on starseedradio.com, and follow Ryan and all the stories that are happening in the world. To be aware is to be alive. Ryan, good morning. Thank you for coming on the show. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, Jonah. How you doing today?
Oh, I am doing awesome. I was working till 3:30 in the office last night, a.m., and very little sleep, but I'm just so excited about net zero and what's happening. And you're going to be helping put out a press release today, so it's really exciting what we're doing. But let's jump into the news and the headlines of what's going on outside of Starseed. What's happening with Mother Gaia and the headlines today, please?
Certainly. Well, as we're looking at solar activity today, right now it's pretty much waning. We have passed into the heliospheric current sheet, which is also known as the solar sector boundary crossing, and so that's setting the stage. Possible geomagnetic storming. Most that you're going to see is in the northern latitudes in the northern hemisphere, aurora borealis, or the northern lights. But this date is very important because 156 years ago, on September 2nd, 1859, which is scientifically known as the Carrington event because it was discovered by Richard Carrington, and his sighting basically established the fact that CMEs do impact Earth. Early in the morning, a coronal mass ejection slammed into Earth 156 years ago, and campers in the Rocky Mountains woke up in the middle of the night thinking that the glow they saw was sunrise, but it wasn't. It was the northern lights. People in Cuba read their morning papers by the red illumination of the aurora borealis that far south into the tropics. So shout out to Dr. Carrington and his sighting, marking the discovery of solar flares that foreshadowed a new field of study for space weather and what we have come to know today as solar flares and how they can impact our infrastructure. Because back then they fried telegraphs, which was our modern technologies at the time. But today, if that were to occur, all our ground-based radar systems, all our satellite systems will be knocked out. We'd be thrown back into the Stone Ages, so to speak. So science is knowledge, and it's always ever-changing. And in regards to ever-changing science, in regards to the new earthquake activity that's been going on to just today, a 4.8 magnitude earthquake was 153 kilometers northeast of Ferun de Peros in northern Mariana Islands. 4.8 was a magnitude earthquake was 40 kilometers southwest of Simpang, Indonesia. A 5.0 magnitude earthquake was 152 kilometers north of Kulensa, Yemen. A 4.8 magnitude earthquake was 35 kilometers east of Moroto, Japan. A 4.7 magnitude earthquake 29 kilometers northeast of Suao, Taiwan. A 5.9 magnitude earthquake 141 kilometers southwest of Sangrai, Philippines. And a 5.0 174 kilometers west of Insangul, Vanuatu. And shout out to Vanuatu because I absolutely do love their kava. I haven't had it in a while, but it's very relaxing and therapeutic.
I like kava too. I like kava. It's cool.
Yeah, no complaints.
Don't abuse it. Don't abuse it, but
no,
it's a nice relaxer. It's better than alcohol, that's for sure.
Much better. And the oldest survivor, actually, the San Francisco earthquake of 1906, just unfortunately died. She was 113 years old, and she was only 5 years old when that quake struck. Shaking her home in Heldsburg Ranch, about 70 miles north of San Francisco. And we've been harping on this, the Hayward Fault. It's eventually going to go, and scientists and geologists from the USGS and other independent scientific departments have said this is an impending issue, not only in the Hayward Fault, but the western United States as a whole is overdue for large earthquake events. And on to the other explosion now that has occurred in Dingyangyang, China. Another explosion, a third explosion in another plant, which is showing that...
this is another one, a recent one? I haven't heard about this one.
Yeah, and Dongying factory blast kills one individual. 6 executives are arrested, and basically the chemistry factory plant exploded, and it took, unfortunately, one life. But this just shows it's coming on the heels. 2 weeks ago in Tianjin, about 190 miles away from this explosion, and in between you had another explosion after another plant. It just really shows that there's either A, there's something conspiratorial going on under the shadows in between governments, or B, which I think is really the big problem here, is that their infrastructures, the way that they handle their chemical plants, the regulations in China are very faulty. And I think that this is going to eventually show that they're going to have to change the way that they have securities and their protocols in regards to having people live so close to these chemical plants, which is, I think, very, very backwards.
It's unbelievable. And if you see the first explosion that in the Tianjuan district, Yeah, that whole, I mean, many people and conspiracy theorists, if you want to call that, are saying that definitely was a nuclear blast by the size of the hole. But regardless of what it was, you could see how close those 20 and 40-story buildings were to that explosion. I mean, all of those were just hollowed out. The explosion was so massive, all the glass. I mean, they put residential buildings right, I mean, literally, a couple hundred yards from a very toxic port chemical plant. But that's how they do things in China, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, as we've been focusing on, they call them migrants. In Budapest, the trains were halted. They were going to come into Germany. But what I'm going to call them are refugees. They are war refugees, because you have not seen a mass migration of people leaving from war-torn areas like you've seen with these migrants over the past year, these refugees escaping war and famine and disease and basically radical ideologies like ISIS coming through into Budapest and then trying to get to Germany. And Angela Merkel actually said, Chancellor Germany, said on Monday that the EU has a possibility of failing and collapsing under the weight of this large migration, which by the end of the year, they should see about 800,000 migrants and refugees coming in. And unfortunately, there was a boat that capsized earlier today and killed 12. And it just showing the ongoing issues that are going on over in Budapest, and not only Budapest, but throughout the fact that you have all these Syrian refugees. They have no food, they have no sleep, they have no place to call their own, and they're just trying to find refuge. And that's why I don't call them migrants, because I think migrants is a negative connotation. These people are refugees. They are trying to find a better way of life, which is what humans have done since the dawn of time. If you're in an area that is not sustainable and that there's war or there's some kind of atrocities going on, you escape that for your family's betterment and for your own betterment. And on to Obama now approving Arctic drilling in the face of his contradictory climate message. The president's calling for action on climate change is at odds with letting Shell drill oil in the Arctic. And he basically painted this apocalyptic picture that the world is going to come to an end, that our children's children will not be able to sustain themselves. And yes, if we keep going the road we are, as business as usual, we will have a very bleak future. But with products like Net Zero Generator and with other products that are coming out in the future as well that will help us to be more sustainable and more conscious of our surroundings, we will have a better place for our children and our children's children. But it just a little backwards.
Absolutely.
Again, a lobbyist basically you see for Shell companies saying, hey, let's drill in Alaska, drill in the Arctic, but watch out, climate change. But we're gonna extract more oil. Okay, we got to do that. It's a little backwards, I think. And now big guns in East Ukraine. Unfortunately, 3 guardsmen were killed as there were violent protests. And 3 guards were killed in Kiev protests over the weekend, and this is just showing that there was no real ceasefire going on, because there was exchange of fire, and then someone threw a grenade, and sadly 3 guardsmen were killed. And on top of that, in Ukraine now, you have a polio outbreak. I don't know if you heard about this, Jonah, but there's a polio outbreak.
No, I have not.
Children in the area. So this is just an ongoing situation. And if people have been focusing on it, there's been a lot of talk that they're actually the skirmishes between Russian military, Putin's military, and the separatists are much graver than the news is even conveying, according to intelligence coming out of that area. And sadly, in the Middle East now, as Turkish, there in Iraq. There were 18 construction workers that were of Turkish descent. They were kidnapped in the Iraqi capital of Baghdad, which they don't know yet as to who the unidentified gunman that did kidnap these individuals. There's a possibility that they were kidnapped by the Islamic State. That's the likelihood. So this is an ongoing and developing situation there.
Yeah, people need to really pay attention to that. I want to also mention an awesome article that I found. Cannabis oil cures man's cancer after he was given 18 months to live. Why real cancer cures are always outlawed. Great article by Natural News, a great website. And we know this, that CBD cannabis cures cancer. We talked about yesterday how scientists have found that they could actually delete certain things from people's DNA to cure them. I mean, there's amazing science happening like all over. The functional HIV cure, step closer to reality. FDA approval of clinical trial in humans. We talked about yesterday. Scientists delete HIV virus from human DNA for first time. So we see these medical breakthroughs. I mean, these are really exciting times. Despite the craziness in Ukraine, people really also need to see the good that's happening. There's also an article I'm going to post up on starseedradio.com. Watch as amazing GCMAF treatment kills cancer cells in real time. Holistic doctors suicide over this stunning breakthrough. Meaning this is very similar if you've seen Greg Braden's video where there's a hospital in China where the doctors literally surround the patient with cancer and the patient picks a word that means a lot to them. It could be like the word love or their mother's name. And the doctors surround the patient and with their hands up just repeat love, love, love. And on the screen, you could see the tumors shrinking before your eyes. That is how powerful humans are. That is the greatest secret they don't want us to know, is how powerful every individual is. Self-empowerment is what this show is about. We talk about the headlines because we want you to learn the information. And you know that, Ryan, that everyone can attract and manifest anything they want. And that's the greatest secret why religion and everything else was invented, is to keep everything not focused on yourself. God's going to save me. Buddha's going to save me. Allah's going to save me. Everyone's focused on all these external things, materialism, their Rolex, their cars. If you just focus on yourself and the power of your personal intent, you could literally, with the rest of us, help shape and change the world. So these articles show that, and the science is proving that. Google Greg Braden hospital kills cancer cells with intention, and you'll see the video. It's unbelievable. And they've cured, I think, like 80-something patients like that, totally eradicated the cancer just by the doctors chanting a positive word and that person believing that word will eradicate that. It's a big part to it. You have to have faith, like faith in God, have faith in yourself. So with that, any last stories, Ryan, before we end the Daily Down?
Yeah, and in connection is what we've been talking about, the CBD oils, how they work. Well, there's definitely parts of the government that don't like that are probably working hand in hand with pharmaceutical companies because, again, you have over 15 deaths of alternative medicine doctors that were working with CBD oils to heal people and to eradicate cancer and other ailments that they were succumbing to. So it's just showing how deep the rabbit hole goes.
And we also did talk about how on the national website just last week, the Cancer Society has now listed marijuana as a cure for cancer. So we still have lobbying and all this other BS that's going on. Meanwhile, we all know cannabis, CBD cures oil. So let's jump into our Game of Thrones person of the day, and I want to go over this article because I have a very good person. Okay. First Lady Michelle Obama's focus on healthy eating was nowhere in sight on Tuesday as President Obama, fueling for a full day in Alaska, ordered a sampler of cinnamon rolls, walnut bread, and muffins. But in a stop at Anchorage's famed Snow City Cafe, he skipped the weekly special, the Obama omelet filled with cheese and everything else. Basically, they just came back from a $5 million taxpayer-funded vacation to Alaska. They ate like crap. They're definitely far from an example of what they need to be showing this nation, which is suffering from obesity. So I'm going to vote Michelle Obama as our Game of Thrones person of the day for being a horrible example of what the First Lady should be being for this country. What do you think about that, Ryan?
I agree. If you remembered, she was a big proponent of eating healthy in schools. Where did that go?
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, the people that supply the school foods are the same company that supply the prison foods. It's the same food. We talked about that article last year. So people need to know the scam is all over, from education, the food, the water, the chemtrails, the fluoride. They've infiltrated everything. We have a new system we're putting into place. Starseed Radio is an action-based show. We're doing much more than this radio. Check us out. Ryan, thank you so much for the daily download. Please check out Ryan's posts. Follow him on Twitter. bellwetherpost.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
With that, we're going to jump to our featured special guest of the day. He's been on the show many times, and we love having him back on because he is so well-rounded on really the topics, the treaties, the conferences, the events that are really shaping and forming the future. We're talking about paying attention to Agenda 21, Occupy Wall Street, many other indigenous events, and also indigenous treaties that Ted has helped push to be recognized for the indigenous people. He's an advocate for truth, advocate for peace, and a big advocate for sustainability. So with that, Ted, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm wonderful, John. It's so great to hear you guys. It's really inspiring work you guys always pull out. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you, Star Brother. It's great work you're doing. So we have about 10 minutes left in this segment. So what I'd like to do, Ted, is give us a quick download or rundown on your current projects. We've been talking about the event that you're going to be involved with, a very important event. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that, give a plug for that, and then we'll talk about some more projects that you're also supporting. And then when we come back for a commercial break, I want to jump into net zero, sustainability, and take it from there.
Heck yeah. So thank you so much, Jonah, and nice to be able to share with everybody who's able to hear right now. I want to just give a little bit of this invitation as far as I can for this historic gathering that is coming up at the very end of this month. And it's something called Bretton Woods 4, Convocation, Live Free and Prosper. It's a gathering that's being called by Stuart Weeks, who is part of the Weeks family of the Mayflower, and bringing together leadership, which I can just give you a little rundown on, that are civil society and new economy building mavens that are rallying around this call that Stuart has raised for an equity-based financial system, a system that is beyond, like, going way past the debt slavery we all are hyper familiar with now and have a common sense that it is real, and that we're also realizing there are new ways of actually running our administrative systems so that they work together with us. So Stuart, and let me get this little list. It's an unbelievable list of people. Are meeting at Bretton Woods, which Bretton Woods is where the IMF and World Bank were founded after World War II. So this fellow has access into this crazy, strange, kind of hyper-elite retreat ski resort in New Hampshire, the state of Live Free or Die. And that's where he and other like-minded people of goodwill are gathering on a real platform for reclaiming every state's central bank and returning it into the commons, reconstituting the right of every citizen of every state to have control of their bank. And it's just that's some of the basics of it, and I want to just share a tiny bit.
And what's the website, Ted?
So it's Bretton Woods IV, BrettonWoods IV.org for Bretton Woods 4, and that's the basic link. James Quilligan, who is a respected consultant of the IMF, who's completely blown the gasket off of the debt-based currency system. Bernard Lietaer, who is a former central banker who's exposed the total corruption of the central banking system, who's one of the individuals who masterminded the local currency system in Europe that then was adopted by Europe to become the euro. So this was a totally freely organized currency system among European peoples that then governments adopted and kind of co-opted. He's also a leader in the Bitcoin movement. Then there's the Mr. Deer is the faithkeeper of the Mohawk Longhouse. Wilhelmina Howard Harris, who is shoulder to shoulder with Martin Luther King Jr., Martin Luther King's grandson, Martin Luther King III, Arun Gandhi, Gandhi's grandson, Dennis Kucinich, Paul Glover, and then it's kind of remarkable who's coming together for this meeting. And it's open for all people. So it's happening at the end of this month on through October 6th. And Stuart has asked me to help share this and make it easier for people who can't make it to New Hampshire for this gathering, and to make their own gatherings in their own towns, and to also have the feedback, finding a real trustworthy feedback mechanism through social media and alternative social media. And with that's any kind of questions that might come up right now, I'd love to answer to clarify some of it and direct people to resources that can help them plug into making their own events.
Excellent. Thank you. And this event is really historic. As you said, this is where the dollar was created to be the world, backup currency, the world financial currency. It's a very historic meeting place. And the people, like you said, are coming together. Martin Luther and his grandson, and is his son or grandson? Grandson, and just so many prominent people. It's really exciting. So people really should take focus in this and try to take part, support the event. Do what you can, do some postings, and just spread the awareness on it, because that's really important. It's just to get the information out there and spread awareness. So the website, give out the website, Ted, and your information again as well.
Yeah, it's Bretton Woods, BrettonWoodsiv.org. And my information is Edward Hall on Twitter. So Edward Hall with it.
Excellent. Ted, hang on right there. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll give out your information again. You're listening to Star Seed Video. We'll be right back.
They call me Marvin like the Martian, 'cause
the greatest form of control is where you think you're free when you're being fundamentally manipulated and dictated. One form of dictatorship is being in a prison cell and you can see the bars and touch it. The other one is sitting in a prison cell but you can't see the bar, you think you're free.
What the human race is suffering from is mass hypnosis. We are being hypnotized by people like this. Newsreaders, politicians, teachers, lecturers.
We are in a country and in a world that is being run by unbelievably sick people. The chasm between what we're told is going on and what is really going on is absolutely enormous.
That is right. Our good friend David Icke, putting out truth for years now. Thank you, David. He is so right. Everyone is hypnotized, but we are breaking through the mold. We see breaking things happen all over. Cures for cancer, cures for HIV, cures for anything you could think of. There's natural homeopathic cures. You're listening to Starseed Radio. We're joined by Edward Twitchill Hall III, an advocate for peace, sustainability all over the world. He originally came to the show and came with us in the Occupy Wall Street movement. He has since moved into a number of different amazing projects supporting indigenous people, indigenous treaties, peace treaties, and really being an advocate for peace all over. So we love having him on the show. And please check out starseedradio.com for the latest news and updates. We're always posting up new articles. Get this show out there. Like us on Facebook. Like us on Twitter. It's time to really get this information out. We have the team together to make the new system and make the old one obsolete. We're just now building it. So join us. If you want to get involved, support the movement, please contact us, contact Ted. We have the Brentwoods event, all of that on our website, and also you can contact Ted with that. So Ted, before we went to break, we talked about the Brentwoods event, an amazing event. Let's also go into now some other important events and important movements that you're involved with that we definitely want the listeners to raise some awareness about.
Yeah, boy, the the other really long-term effort that is 100% open for anyone to participate in is the honoring of the Two-Row Treaty, which is the oldest treaty in the entire continent, and it's like the Declaration of Welcome, which we have to honor in order to really respect our place in this part of the world. Those of us who are not indigenous to this place, and those of us who have benefited from the grave, horrible atrocities and injustices that still plague our native brothers and sisters, who they have a higher rate of being killed by police than any ethnic group in the country, more than African Americans. So more unarmed natives are killed by police.
Wow, I had no idea. That is actually it's shocking. I had no clue. That's really sad.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And these are people who are, when we look at how our country and the people who claim to be following the Constitution totally annihilate the spirit of this country, which is our conscience. It's our Constitution. It's what we remember as the principles. There's no greater highlight of that hypocrisy than what our government officials and supposed protectors of peace inflict on natives, because native people are not a part of the United States jurisdiction. They never have been, and it's because of them that we have a country. And so it's a great reflection about what our collective awareness is and our collective responsibility, how our native brothers and sisters live. And so this treaty of the Two-Row, the years that I've continued to honor it, there's a website that gives a bit of that background, and it's Two-Row, TWOROW.US for United States, tworow.us, and it gives, it's kind of like the ABCs of protocol with peaceful relations and united relations with the First Nations people. That every year, my wife and I and a very good team continue to keep our side of that treaty alive by canoeing, kayaking, walking, and biking down the Hudson to the United Nations, where we are received with a large event that just happens every year to honor Indigenous people throughout the planet. And we're just beginning. It's a very, every year it's just going to keep growing. People who are honoring the peace that is the reason that we are here. And that treaty is just beautiful. And it highlights too what kind of law we have the ability to recognize, and that law is our equality with Native nations. But that equality and that respect needs to be communicated with a particular set of nations, which is the Haudenosaunee Confederacy that we know as the Iroquois. And the Iroquois, or the Haudenosaunee, the people of the hills, or the people of the Longhouse, were the ones who gave us constitutional democracy. So they have the oldest running, living, direct democratic government in the world, and they continue to this day. And when those of us who are not indigenous to this continent, when we want to interact with other Native people on a diplomatic basis, or even a large cultural basis, we have to do that through and with the Haudenosaunee as protectors of that conversation. And they're called the Eastern Doorkeepers. And because our government and people came from the East, we need to be in check and have a good relationship with the Eastern Doorkeepers in order to have a good relationship with other nations. If they're the Diné, if they're the Lakota, if they're the Comanche, if they're the Zuni, if they're the Laguna or the Hopi or the Mexica or whichever nations, there's hundreds. But to have for unity inside the Native peoples like internal international relations and treaties. The First Nations have treaties with themselves. And in order for those to be honored, we have to honor our treaties with the Haudenosaunee. And the Haudenosaunee, they're like the primary gatekeepers. So this is something that will really help a lot of people who are working with indigenous people from this continent, because without that grounding and the understanding of the protocol, people actually end up undermining native sovereignty and also add a great deal of complexity to something that's very simple, which is kind of like you have to be greeted by the doorkeepers before you enter in a good way with the other native peoples as a whole set of nations and language groups.
When you talk about treaties and you talk about constitutions and documents and stuff like that, most people, including myself, I was never taught the real history of that in school. We weren't taught the real treaties that were signed. What you're talking about, Ted, is profound. And I also want to give some news that just this last month, the first sovereign judicial world system was put into place. Are you familiar with that? What happened a few weeks ago?
Say that again.
Sasha Stone of the New Earth Project and a few others have come together and created the world's first sovereign international judicial system. And they had all the documents and everything signed in London with the head court there and many people. It was on TV. I've seen some video of it. Amazing stuff. And really, yeah, it's some really amazing. I urge people to Google that, check that out, and Google, everything I just said, and I'm sure something will pop up. There's videos and all different things. So, amazing things are happening like that where we are becoming sovereign. The natives, the indigenous people, the Native Americans that were here were sovereign people. And we came here and invaded the land and took the land and then made treaties with them. We have to uphold those treaties. So this topic is very important, not just for that, but for also the livelihood of what you just said, that there's more Native Americans being killed by police than African Americans or whites or anyone else. And that sort of just blew me away when you said that. I had no idea that something like that was happening. Now, also, when we talk about sustainability and you look at the Native Americans, we have Lakota and many others that don't even have power still run to their reservations. And to give you an example, in Las Vegas, the Lakota land reservation, I believe it's Lakota, supplies 90% of Las Vegas's power from their coal mines, powering Las Vegas, but yet they refuse and will not run power lines to the reservation. I mean, if that's not backwards and if that's not wrong, I don't know what is. So it's situations like that really need to end. And this goes into the net zero power supply, Ted, that I just sent you that link to. That this is a new technology that we're offering 100% financing for to start powering your community today and buying power from 100% clean renewable energy. Or you could buy a device in the U.S. and just power a reservation for free. Literally, once you buy it. So it's systems like that are very exciting to bring to the forefront. And Starseed Technologies and you and the rest of our team, because we're all a team doing this, it's very exciting times. And, these issues have to be raised. We have to back the treaties that were signed. We have to be a man of our word. We have to speak truth. We have to empower the natives that were here long before us. All of these things are happening and have to be done, and we need your help. So, again, contact Ted, contact me. We're here. All of us are here to make a difference. And now we really have some systems to do that, especially this net zero power generator where we offer 100% financing. I mean, we can empower your community right now with 100% clean renewable energy. It's been voted the number one renewable system on the planet right now from Pure Energy Systems site. And in fact, Sterling Allen was on Coast to Coast last night on George Norrie talking about it. So we have very exciting movement in the energy sector, in cures sectors, many sectors happening, so it's really a time for people to get involved because we really have a movement that is moving forward towards a real sustainable future. It's very exciting, Ted.
Yeah, it is. exactly the right time that people should be, holding together for that unity of our being, because this communication and the ability to communicate and commune together, while the old forces of the world try to harass or distract us from what we know is the fundamental abundance that we all are stewards of, and that we don't need to play into those dead old games. It's this kind of communication that is super powerful, and through that power of our connection to the Creator, and that connection is what gives us the inspiration to have these kinds of inventions that bring the next world into this world. And when we do that together, that is incalculable. The tiniest, just even speaking the truth, will undo the knots of a distorted worldview that we are all past. And now when we continue to share and to focus in this way, then when we look at the hard, harsh, crazy hypocrisy, tyranny outside and on the TV or on the internet, then we know that we're doing something for a purpose. We know that we're having an impact, because it would be worse if we weren't doing this kind of work. And we know that that work has an impact, and actually we do have the ability to totally unwind that whatever crazy plans there are to dehumanize the world. And because, as you were saying, we need to know that there's that piece of divinity, and that breath that comes from the Creator is in all of us. And we need to respect each other as children of God and as family members. And just those simple teachings and walking that way and praying every day and doing the work beyond the words, that is making that dead world crumble, and it's turning it into the fuel for our new world. And that's a world that is unimaginably glorious.
Absolutely, Ted. Thank you for that. We have about 10 minutes left or so. So what I'd like to do is go into a little bit I want to really talk about some of the pioneers and movements. I know you're very well versed in history, and we're talking about like the Nikola Teslas, the Martin Luther Kings. If you could go into a little bit of history of other advocates for peace and other advocates, Native Americans, maybe some famous chiefs, and just give us a little history lesson, if you will, from your experience of people that have raised their voice, have rose up, and have really made a difference, just so people can Google and research and see and learn about other people like you, like me, that are really, stepping up and making an impact, because we all lead by example. So if you can give us some examples of some of your choice people, maybe your top three, and maybe some quotes or history and some things they accomplish, I think that'd be a great way to end the show, with giving the listeners some more ammunition, if you will, to really be an advocate for peace by learning more about some other people before us that have really paved the way.
Yeah. The first that comes to mind is Abdul Baha, and he, the message and the life which he lived was so threatening to the Muslim clergy and to the government of Persia, of the Ottoman Empire, that he was imprisoned from the age of 9 to the age of 70. And he was released from prison, and
wow.
Yeah, and he was the whole world knew about him. He was kind of like, if you put Gandhi and Nelson Mandela and the Dalai Lama, and I mean every hero together, the amount of suffering that this man Abdul Baha, which his name means the servant of God or the servant of glory, and he he came into the United States, and people knew, like, the people had heard about him. And the reason he was in prison was because he was loyal to his father, and his father was such a threat that the entire family was thrown in dungeons, tortured, and put in prison because they were called heretics for heralding the union of the human family. And this was in the 1800s. But this man, Abdu'l-Baha, if you look up, it's hard to spell his name, but if you look at the forgotten survivor of the Titanic, when he was released from prison by the Young Turks Revolution, he came directly to the United States as an old man who'd survived all of this, and that was his sacrifice, was to come to America to share these teachings. And this is one of the things that he was sharing. So this is in a little beautiful thing called Foundations of World Unity, and this is one quick quote of his. And he says, all created things have their degree or stage of maturity. The period of maturity in the life of a tree is the time of its fruit bearing. The maturity of a plant is the time of its blossoming and flower. The animal attains a stage of full growth and completeness, and in the human kingdom, man reaches his maturity when the lights of intelligence have their greatest power and development. And he basically came to the U.S. to explain that the coming of age of humanity is now. And our stage of maturity as an organism is this organic, diverse union. And with all nations coming together, not a hegemony, but all cultures are coming together, and it's a force that can't be stopped. And just what he did in his life, the care that he brought and the sacrifice that he would carry, the alms that he would give to the poor, the admonitions he would give to the rich. Like J.P. Morgan got him the ticket to come to America on the Titanic, and Abdu'l-Baha said, sell that ticket, we'll take a more reasonable boat and then buy clothes for the homeless. And he came, and even though that the person who financed his reception in the United States was so rich, he was explaining these riches are locking this person out from the blessings of God. And while there are poor people who can't eat on the street within a block of somebody who's a multi-millionaire, that's tyranny. And so he really laid the seeds in America for our second awakening, like our final awakening as a country in 1912. And the 100-year anniversary that he came to share that message in the United States in 2012, November 26th, was one day in New York history. This is in New York that he said that this city is where humanity will unite, and this country is going to become the envy of the world and will raise the banner of the unity of humanity and raise aloft the banner of peace, actually. That is our destiny. And that we need to use our just government for those means. And he said that, and on that day, the 100-year anniversary of that day, was the one day in New York's written, recorded history that not one violent crime was perpetrated, not one act of violence.
Wow, that's amazing. That's the power right there.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It is, and as he says that it's the spiritual, it's this mystical connection with God that is no priest can. There's no longer room for priests to do that. I respect priests. He respected priests, but he explained this is the age of maturity. We're all literate. We're all responsible for our spiritual development, and that is when the priests are supposed to guide people to literacy and guide people to science. And to especially the message that he was teaching was his father's instruction. And his father is somebody we cannot even comprehend. And Baha'u'llah is his name, and it is a very sacred name to share. He is, all I can say is that Baha'u'llah was heralded. Just the station of Baha'u'llah as a world reformer and organizer in the 1800s, the only justice that I can give in this context is that his forerunner, the one who just through divine inspiration, through divine message, was told by God that this other teacher was about to come, that person was none other than Muhammad's direct descendant. And he was a 25-year-old man who was a merchant in Tehran. And he started receiving revelation. And in that revelation, he knew in...
Welcome. We are broadcasting live from the mothership. You are tuned in and listening to Starseed Energy Radio with your host, Jonah Bolt. Starseed Energy Radio, where you can always tune in to hear the colors and see the music. Starseed Energy Radio goes live in 3, 2, 1.
All right, what's up, Spaceship Earth? Thanks for tuning in. You are now receiving a live transmission from Starseed Radio, where you can always tune in to hear the colors and see the music. I am your host, Jonah Bolt, the Octorian Starseed. We have lots of exciting news to share today about Net Zero, the new generator that we are pushing out to the world for clean, renewable energy. It's an amazing system, and we've had such an amazing response. I want to thank everybody out there. I've been contacted by over 100 people from all over the world, Bangladesh, India, Aruba, Madagascar, even the small island of Maldives.com. So check that out, and you can read more about that there. Or you can call toll-free again, 888-400-2328. With that, we're going to start the show with our daily quote. And this quote goes a little something like this. None can destroy iron, but its own rust can. Likewise, none can destroy a person, but his own mindset can. That quote by Ratan Tata. Shout out to Ratan Tata for the quote of the day, and we're going to jump into our daily download with our very own Ryan Matthew Durnick from BellwetherPost.com. Always on top of the news 24/7. Check out his feed also on StarseedRadio.com and follow Ryan and all the stories that are happening in the world. To be aware is to be alive. Ryan, good morning. Thank you for coming on the show. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, Jonah. How you doing today?
Oh, I am doing awesome. I was working till 3:30 in the office last night, a.m., and very little sleep, but I'm just so excited about Net Zero and what's happening, and you're going to be helping put out a press release today, so it's really exciting what we're doing. But let's jump into the news and the headlines of what's going on outside of Starseed. What's happening with Mother Gaia and the headlines today, please?
Certainly. Well, as we're looking at solar activity today, right now it's pretty much waning. We have passed into the heliospheric current sheet, which is also known as the solar sector boundary crossing, and so that's setting the stage possible geomagnetic storming. Most that you're going to see is in the northern latitudes in the northern hemisphere, aurora borealis, or the northern lights. But this date is very important because 156 years ago, on September 2nd, 1859, which is scientifically known as the Carrington event because it was discovered by Richard Carrington, and his sighting basically established the fact that CMEs do impact Earth. Early in the morning, a coronal mass ejection slammed into Earth 156 years ago, and campers in the Rocky Mountains woke up in the middle of the night thinking that the glow they saw was sunrise, but it wasn't. It was the northern lights. People in Cuba read their morning papers by the red illumination of the aurora borealis that far south into the tropics. So shout out to Dr. Karen.
All 5 elements, 20 panelists. It's a 5-part series. It's going to be innovation, education, and inspiration. So please write down September 27th. You can go to starseedradio.com. We're going to be posting more information up there as well. We'll also say check out Starseed Technologies, please, .com for the new shungite that we're still sending out. We got a new shipment in of elite shungite. And also for our free energy information, I want to get this free energy information out to you, or call us toll free at 888-400-2328 anytime, 24/7. If we don't pick up, leave us a message with your number and we will get right back to you. You can call us anytime. We want to send you these PDF files. I have about 15 to get this free energy information out, and also this elite shungite. We've been getting a few orders, so thank you for all the listeners out there ordering shungite. As you can hear right here, that is my shungite, my water bottle. I drink shungite water every day. We've heard amazing stories from people contacting us all over the world that are also using and having great benefits from shungite. We have lots of information and studies by Cornell University and other universities on Starseed Technology. Malta, shout out to my girlfriend who just came from Malta. So it's been real exciting, and we have a great show lined up for you today. Today is September 2nd, 2015. We're going to be doing a very awesome 9/11 webinar, a musical webinar with meditation for the families of 9/11, a really, really cool show. So I hope everyone can tune in then, as well as we're going to be doing a very big webinar coming up on September 27th. I want people to write that date down. September 27th is the webinar. This webinar is going to feature 4 of the world's top leaders in the energy field. We have some amazing panelists. I'm going to be doing a 5-part series. It is called Synergy, Oneness of the Elements. Our first 4 guest panelists will be Dave Parker from the Free Energy Party. We have Dan Winter coming on, and we also have David Sarita, and we also have Sterling Allen from New Energy Systems. So 4 of the leading world top people in energy. Then we'll be doing water, air, ether, and the other elements. So